We're celebrating Halloween with a cult film that had all the makings of a much bigger hit, but somehow missed the mark. We're talking about 1991's Warlock, and we've got some special guests sitting in. Stay with us. Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Happy Halloween, Eric.
Happy Halloween, Dean.
This is it. It's trick or treat time. I mean,
indeed it is. And look at the shirt you're wearing. What are you wearing there?
This is the old, if you're watching us on YouTube, this is our Monster Mash 2021, the first year we started our podcast. We used to do shows on Facebook and YouTube, and we did a draft of pitting monsters versus each other, and all the people that joined us would vote which monster would win. It was fun. We had a bunch of T-shirts made up. So I had to dig it out. I had to get the mothball smell off of it. I had to wash it.
Yeah, mine's somewhere buried in the dresser there. But I'm always in the black T-shirt anyway. This is my.
And then I'm going to wash my car with it after we're done. That's what we're going to do with it. And also, Eric, you know what this episode is? Besides this episode coming out on Halloween, besides it being a horror episode, there's two other things, but one thing specific to us. Do you know what it is?
I don't.
Celebratory. It is our 200th full-length episode.
Wow. Why did I not know that?
Wow. Well, episode 199 just came out, so
yeah.
The next one would be.
Who's looking at numbers anymore, right? And we're just
our two them out. Episodes. That doesn't include the quick hits we did, plus all the short form content we did, and the holiday treasures where we read the Christmas stories as well for the holidays. So it's actually more than 200, but 200 full length episodes. So congratulations, go us!
Yes.
Which means if you're new to the show, there's 199 other ones back in the back room. So after you're done with this, put your smock on and get sorting through those boxes in the back, because there's a lot of great episodes for you to check out. Also, of note, we've got guests. We've got new guests.
It's always a pleasure to have new blood on our show.
New blood, and they have their own podcast, and their podcast is about movies. So this is a match made in heaven. This is the Film Bros Championship Podcast.
Got it.
Okay, and Film Bros should tell you that right there. It's two brothers. So I want to welcome Tim and Patrick Callahan to the show. Welcome aboard, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. 200. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. 200 every week, and we never missed a week.
I wish I dressed up.
We'll get on the back for that. We grind. We grind this shit out.
Do. Yeah, you did.
But impressive. Tim and Patrick, welcome aboard the Film Bros podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? When did you guys start your podcast?
Probably a little over a year ago or so, but we've been putting through a few seasons there, though, in the midst of that short amount of time, and having a lot of fun doing it.
Cool. Now you guys have a very particular. Patrick, you guys have a very particular way of selecting the films that you decide to do. Us, it's scattershot. It's very much like what hits our flight of fancy.
Completely random.
And if we can get guests to do it, and if we can get people to come on, we do it.
I'm starting to understand more about how this episode came about now.
Yeah. You guys are a little more disciplined. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your strategy is for selecting and what your how you go through it?
Well, I listen to a ton of podcasts. So when Tim came to me, he's like, "Well, come with our own podcast. We love talking movies, and people enjoy hearing us rant at each other." I thought, I always wondered, who won the genre of a year? What was the best horror movie in whatever year? What was the best action movie of that year? And that's exactly what we do. We spin a wheel. The wheel decide. We talk about the decade first, then we spin a wheel, find out what year we're doing, do the genre of that year, and we just go for it. So right now we're in 1995 action movies. We started off in 82 action movies. We've done 92 horror and 2008 R-rated comedies. We were going to do all comedies, and then when we saw how many comedies came out in 2008,
so many.
Yeah.
I would have walked into the ocean if I had to do an entire season of that.
A really long season.
Well, you guys, that's podcast host prerogative to narrow it down to say we're going to do R-rated. So I guess that kind of keeps it fresh, because you are literally leaving it right, to the mercy of the spins of the wheel for the year and for the. Do you do that with genre too?
No, we kind of just talk about the genre, like what we feel like doing.
Sure.
What we're feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes like we like we did the really long comedy season and we're just like, all right, we're kind of itching to get back to action. So let's just go back to that. And then we were like, we did 80s last time with action. Let's just go with a different decade. What would be interesting? And we just did comedies 2000. So we figured, okay, let's go to 90s then. And then the wind spins for randomness there.
Cool.
So that's how we kind of switch it up.
Cool. Pop quiz. We'll go with Tim first and Patrick. What percentage of the films that you guys is it films you've already seen, or do you just kind of say, well, this is what was the top, I need to watch them? What percentage do you think is stuff you've already seen and stuff that you've got to go and watch?
That's a good question. It really depends on the genre and the decade. Like I feel like when we did 82 action, I would say like we knew the heavy hitters that year, but there was definitely a lot of things going on that year that I did not know about. So there was like a lot of discovery, right? But then when we did like 2008 comedies, we saw a majority of all of them. So it was like only a very small few that we didn't see. I think it was kind of similar for horror too, when we did 92 horror.
More for me than you. I think the only one I hadn't seen was like Dr. Giggles. I'm like, oh wow, I'm gonna see Dr. Giggles. You have to cross this off the list. Let's go.
Larry Drake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the puns.
We just
So
did our only Larry Drake episode, Eric, was Karate Kid.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
Right, where he was the racist.
That's right.
When he was at the beach with Mr. Miyagi, and and Miyagi, took the tops off the bottles. That was so far. That's all we got for Larry Drake so far. Unless we do Darkman, that we might have.
I would love to do Darkman.
Darkman's a lot of fun.
Durant.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great film. Yeah.
So we're gonna drop a link in the show notes to the Film Bros Championship podcast, and that we'll actually drop two links. We'll do one that will link everybody directly to Spotify. So go ahead, give them a follow, check it out. All movies all the time. So absolutely. And again, they've got a very unique way of how they select it. And then we'll also put a link to their YouTube channel. Okay.
Thank you so much.
The video, or if you want to just kind of, sometimes people have it on their TV, and even if there's no video like ours, sometimes we'll put the video or the audio. They could just have it on in the background anyway. So we're going to link to both of those. All right, I think we need to get down to business. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And oddly enough, in us talking before we came on, we oddly enough are all from the same county in New York, which is the world gets smaller and smaller. The longer I'm on it, it shrinks more and more. And so all four of us are from Westchester County in New York, and we're from different parts of it. We actually all originally or come from different sections of it, but
we know what pizza's supposed to taste like.
and bacon, egg, and cheese.
There you go.
Yes. Yep. Oh, I missed that.
Baby, you don't get that in North Carolina. You get
the rolls. You can't get
whatever they have down there, right?
You certainly don't get
terrible.
In Florida either. So
bacon, egg, and cheese, pizza, and bagels. That's all I got.
Yeah. You just get Waffle House down here, and that's just depressing.
It's the water, I think. It's the water down there. It's the water, they just don't, it
doesn't have all that pollution in it. That's what the New York,
Yeah, I guess so.
Your immunity, all the toxins and all the heavy metals in the water
must be
your tolerance, and it makes it stronger.
Honestly, the real thing of it is we just don't have enough different nationalities that came down here. Like, because when I first got here in like 2007, it was all just like Outback Steakhouse, Applebee's. Like, there was no variety in the food. Yeah. Oh my God, it's all just national chains. It's gotten a little bit better since then. But like, man, I went to like a Jersey diner last week, and I was like, oh, I'm in heaven again. I need this. Like, we don't have enough Greeks down here. I need this.
Those diners. I'll tell you, when you take that first bite into that beautiful bacon, egg, and cheese, I'm gonna make you guys move back up here. Him thinking about it, he's pretty quiet. He's like, I think I'm thinking.
Nobody misses it more than him.
Oh, yeah. What is it? Steak fries and gravy, right?
I can't with the gravy. I cannot. With
3 o'clock. Oh my God, 3 o'clock in the morning. Me and him would be chowing down, and
Sorry, I hear gravy nowadays. I'm thinking of the biscuits and gravy that I see down here.
Oh no,
we're talking about like real.
I got you now.
Yes.
Home
Brown,
style,
brown gravy. Brown gravy.
Mm-hmm.
I've been scarred living down here so long.
All right, let's get cracking on this. If you're new to our show, we do a little statistical information in the beginning, a little bit of factual information. Then we go into the wild theories and we kind of give our opinions. So we're going to talk the stats right now. This was released. There's actually 2 dates.
I'll say.
Sad story about this film. It was actually released in May of 1989, but it didn't get released in the United States till 2 years later in January of 1991. It sat on a shelf for a while. There was just issues with distribution. Strike one. Ugh.
New World ran out of business, right? That was
when New World was having
financial around. And it's kind of, at that point it becomes an asset. Right. Of that, when someone else takes over or purchases the rights to the company or whatever they have, you get this film. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll release it. Directed by Steve Miner. Okay, so he's got some horror pedigree. He directed Friday the 13th 2 and 3. He directed the House film, not the TV show about the doctor, but the movie House in the 80s, and Halloween H2O. So
Lake Placid?
Yeah, Lake Placid. Yeah.
One.
He's got a horror pedigree, and then it was written by David Twohy.
Yeah,
I saw that one.
He wrote The Fugitive. He wrote
The Fugitive. He wrote
G.I. Jane.
Pitch Black.
Yeah,
love Pitch Black.
Yeah, the first Riddick film.
Yeah, talk about genre. I mean, the guy he writes everything. Yeah,
Jerry Goldsmith did the soundtrack.
Oh, what a great!
Oh man, what did he do there?
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm building this case that this film is packed with people that were very qualified to make a hit film, and maybe because of what happened with the distribution and it sat on a shelf, like maybe it kind of lost its audience or lost steam. It had a $15 million budget and it only made $9 million back.
Yeah.
I can tell you my $7.50 at the time went to that $9 million because I saw it in the theater. Eric, did you see it with me?
I saw it with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
First time.
My friend Johnny probably.
Yeah.
Wow.
We saw it in the theater. That was at the time when we would just go see anything.
Right.
That we were still in that. We weren't snob. I wasn't a snob yet. I was still like, if something looked interesting, like, that's how we found Highlander, right, Eric? And
Flash,
Evil Dead and Army of Darkness.
All of it. Yeah, all of it.
I think Warlock, Tim, do you think Warlock kind of fits into those types of it should have been a bigger cult classic, but it's not.
I mean, it definitely is. It's interesting because it's got some good actors in it too.
Yeah.
So it's like, why have I never heard of this movie? Because to be honest, like I didn't know this movie.
Okay.
I never got around to it. And I was talking to Patrick about like, which one of these movies listed here should we go with? And immediately Patrick was like, oh man, Warlock. Like this is fascinating. And I was like, really? And so I think I'm the one that's like the newest introduced to this movie.
I just couldn't believe it was on the list. You gave me a list of movies with Warlock. Someone wants to talk about Warlock?
Yeah.
Yes, I will talk about Warlock. Let's go.
We do.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a pretty good movie knowledge, so I was kind of like, this one got by me. I really didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
It slipped by a lot of people. I mean, look at the box office, and it never like ascended to that cult classic like Flash Gordon did and Highlander and all. Like I look at Eric, right? I mean, is Warlock in that group with those films? Fright Night. I mean, I put Warlock in with it.
Not because I mean, I think it's of the same pedigree, but it's I don't think it is as beloved as those films that you mentioned are.
Yeah, I know all those movies.
Yeah.
I've seen them many times and enjoyed them all quite a lot.
Right. And, they were all in the same kind of boat, right? I mean, some of them were, box office failures. Some of them were, they're just beloved classics that, now they're classics. But yeah, this was an odd one. This was just sort of like, it was just there for the taking. We just went because for the hell of it. And we loved it. We just, it's one of those things where it's just, you fall into something and you just love the comedy there, the little bit of, and then, like you said, the actors involved, we mentioned this several times, and we love when actors really give it their all in these kinds of films, like Max von Sydow as Ming, Or we did, Masters of the Universe and Frank Langella's performance as Skeletor in that.
We have checked that performance off a couple times on our podcast, how much we love it.
Yeah. This, I think this is quite the same. Richard E. Grant with Nail and I think is probably his best, beloved role. But to see him in this film, what a badass character this guy is. He's like Indiana Jones, but he's like a hunter. He's like, he's got all these different facets. I love the way he talked. It was just what an interesting character he was. And Julian Sands, unfortunately, he's
let's throw a little moment for Julian Sands. Yeah. I mean, went missing January of 2023. Went out for a hike in California. He was an experienced hiker. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he did not come back. Like that day, I think his family was already like reporting, "Hey, we got a problem here." Multiple searches. It wasn't until June 24th of the same year that they found his remains and unfortunately passed away. But another great actor and
great actor.
Underrated.
Love Julian Sands.
Yeah, he was always kind of. You know what I thought about Tim when I was watching this? I'm like, Julian Sands is like what Sting would be if Sting was a better actor.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why we liked him at first.
But if Sting was better, he'd be Julian Sands.
Now there is something inherently cool about Julian Sands with the way he talks and
the delivery,
naturalistic
is really. There's something quite menacing in this performance. He gives quite a lot, even when he's putting on a smile. Or even giving kind of a dopey exchange at times, but he still brings this kind of intensity to it. Yeah. He's the thing that I think I took away the most in this movie was how impressed I was with this villain portrayal that he has. That's the thing I enjoyed the most.
Mm. Yeah, and he had said that he had gotten the script and it just sat for a while on his desk. He's like, whatever, and then he read it and he goes, you know what? I think I'd like to do this. I think it might be fun. It's something different. And like Eric said, when the difference between like a film like this and other genre films is, when the actors are like committed to it, that will help sell some of the corny dialogue, or it'll help kind of soften it a little bit, right? And they can get away with some of that stuff because the other scenes or in a film like this, the writing is just so great. Like the lore of this world is built about witches and putting a nail into the ground to cripple them and putting pennies like this is really well written as far as like the world that this whole thing lives in, and with the Mennonites, and he's painting the this whole thing. It's like built, like all this stuff is like always immediately built into the world, which really helps also sell it. I think the writing on this and the acting, I think, kind of really help put this over, and that's why it's surprising that.
And I'll take good acting, a good performance over bad special effects any day.
Which this movie also has.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
watch it today. Right? I mean, it was filmed in '89, but it came out in '91, and T2 came out in '91, which revolutionized like the digital the digital revolution was on the horizon, and the late '80s there was still that awkward time of like we've kind of done as much as we can with.
Yeah, but still at times, like we're way into I Can Believe a Man Can Fly. And at this time with this movie, it's like, woof.
Yeah.
It's rough. Like it's really bad with the flying stuff.
We're not creative with someone.
We already know a man can fly. Why does this look so bad?
Sometimes it's fine, like when he's flying around the barn or whatever, but when he's doing like I don't know, when he's on the freeway or whatever, and he's like going like Count Dracula, like it's fun.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. He's like riding is he riding a skateboard or something, or like a surf, like he's the Silver Surfer or something? Yeah, it's like that stance. Yeah,
and you can see that they got the wind machine going on him, and
he's
kind of holding a static pose. But the scene where Redfern has the whip on him, and the shot from above where he's dragging him, that was a really cool way to really kind of fudge it. And it was like, we don't have the budget to really do crazy flying stunts, so let's do it with a different perspective of the Warlock right in the frame, and he's pulling Redfern by the whip below.
Yeah, that's one of the weirder parts of this movie. So it's a horror movie,
right?
But like like 90% of it is shot during the day.
Yeah, like, it looks really good and crisp on.
I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Like, that's not how we build mood. You know better than this, Steve. Like, come on. Like,
the night.
And it makes all the effects look worse than they actually should be because you're shooting this during the day and like so you see everything like looking a little janky. Like,
yeah, it's not right. I think maybe Tim, it gives it that adventure feel though instead, right? Like Patrick says, taking it out of darkness kind of removes the scary element, but then there's still those adventure parts of it, like with the weather thing and
the locations it goes to. Like I was like, oh really? They're getting on a plane and going to Boston, going across country. Like okay, like. You know, you can already kick the music. Dun, 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 dun. Let's just go with the dots, right? Like, I was surprised they went with that.
Yeah, it's pretty good for a horror movie. They shot in like 3 different locations. We had like L.A., Massachusetts, Boston, and Plymouth, and then they
some Midwestern area.
We're in Utah at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty
kind of crazy.
Pretty wild. And but that's what I liked about this film. I think what sticks with me, and I don't watch it enough because when I watch it, I really enjoy it. It's just like it's like that. It reminds me of like the Universal Monsters kind of stuff as well, where they're not. It's not threatening. It's just scary enough, but it's kind of fun frights. It's not like I don't go for like the Human Centipede and Saw and. Like you know, like that's not my thing is like this kind of like I said, like Evil Dead, like that kind of fun slapsticky, but
I love it all except for the Human Centipede. I don't.
But,
I do love the Saw movies, but I hear you, and I don't know. Like it definitely felt like it was trying to keep its toes in both worlds, because like you know this opening scene, or not opening, but close to it, where he's like bites a guy's tongue out of his mouth, like okay. Yeah. Let's go. Well, we're talking to horror. And then the next thing he's like cutting the eyes out of that woman's head. Like, all right. And then like
the hand
nothing like around. That for the rest of the movie. Like, and the eyes that he's holding looks like something made by Jim Henson Company.
Yeah, they look nothing like the eyes that she actually had. Or even if they're supposed to be Satan's eyes, I don't know.
That's
but it just
Fozzie Bear.
But that was effective. That was that makeup right there of her, like when she lifted her head and the teeth. That freaked me out the first time I saw her. I was like, wow, this.
But then for the rest of the movie, we're not doing anything close to that. So it's like
maybe towards the end a little bit, like the way he dies, Julian Assange dies, is actually great. It's actually some of the best effects I think they did the whole movie.
Yeah,
the way he kind of dies and goes in the skeleton. I was like, I thought all that looked really gnarly. I really liked it. It's just, man, I wish I had more of that throughout,
Yeah.
The whole graveyard, like at the end, you get it, basically you get it in the beginning and the end. You kind of get the horror elements, and like to Patrick's point about things happening at night or in the dark is kind of the beginning. And then at the very end with the whole graveyard scene, and that's like a really cool thing of like, oh, they're moving the graves. So it's like, oh shit, we're not really just like smart writing. Like again, there could have been so many other shortcuts that they could have taken just to get to the end.
Mm-hmm.
But then at that point, that means Redfern's got to like look at his own body. Like there was a whole scene with him, like, well, now we have to take my body out of the casket because I'm actually dead, and they found his, he's holding the last third of the book.
Just got to break all the bones off his hands to get the pages.
Breaking the fingers off.
Yeah.
I think this film really should have been punching above its weight. Like it's one of those ones that people really should have grabbed onto, but didn't. Did you guys ever see the movie Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. I have not. No.
Okay, so Patrick, is this like Time After Time but the horror version? Kind of is a horror film as well.
It's in that same vein. Like, okay, we got like there's the killer and they're both fishes out of water running around modern San Francisco in that movie. So yeah, I hear you. That is actually pretty close.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the sequel to this movie though?
No.
You haven't seen the Armageddon?
No, it has nothing to do with the story.
That's the funniest part about it to me. It's like we're making a sequel, but we're pretending the first movie didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
A bold move. Bold move.
Highlander 2.
That's actually really close.
After we got burnt with Highlander 2,
just completely changed the lore with Highlander 2.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, considering what your sensibilities are for horror movies, I think you should definitely check out Warlock the Armageddon.
I will.
Because Anthony Hitchcock's directed that, and he did the Waxworks movies.
Yep.
Which I love those movies. They are so cheesy but funny, and they know they are. And they're like the Sundown Vampires in Retreat movie. I don't know if you ever saw that one. That's a weird one.
I'll definitely have to check it out.
And then randomly, Hellraiser 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw the first Hellraiser in the theater and I was horrified. I was absolutely like,
oh, I loved it.
Movie. I love Hellraiser movies.
I was absolutely disgusted and terrified. I'm like, oh my God.
I just got the box set, the first 4 on Arrow.
So did I. I got that too.
Did you get the Pinhead art, or did you get who did you get on your cover?
Oh, actually, I don't even know. It's been a while since I picked it up.
I had to get Pinhead, but the other ones looked just so awesome. They were like 4 different of the. There's like 4 different covers to the box set. So I got, of course I got Pinhead, but it was just,
we were doing horror movies in 92.
Yeah.
I do love the CD head guy. But we were doing 92 horror movies, so I was hoping that thing came in time for us to do Hellraiser 3, but Tim picked it before it got here. I was like, so I haven't actually picked it up since. I kind of want to watch them all back to back. I'm dying to watch the part 4, like the original cut, or where they try to jangle together.
Yeah. Now, Tim, you made a passing remark about Indiana Jones. I think there's a decent amount of homage, I think, in here. Yeah, the bullwhip, but the whole adventure, the quest type thing,
going from location to location,
the gadgets, like just he's got this kind of compass that can track the Warlock and the traveling too. I think that's maybe where they pulled some of the adventure aspects to it, and maybe that's where it lost its audience. Like to Patrick's point of, well, it started out as a horror flick, and then kind of turned into like a globe-trotting, national treasure.
Yeah,
type,
and it had its humor too with it too. Like he's like him having the weather vane. Yeah, like it's somehow bringing that onto the plane.
She's like, give me your knife, give me the bullwhip. He's like, I'm not. He's like, they're not going to let you on the plane with that. And this is 91. So So
he showed her. He made it on that plane.
But what did she do with them though? That's my question. Is like she took them from him, but what did she do with them? Did she put them in her bag? They
had the scene where he walked in and she was like, "Oh, this is an old family heirloom." So I guess they probably
the weather vane. Yeah, but what about the other 2?
Oh, I think it went in the bag. They checked it. They didn't bring it on, but
no, they brought it on, but she the stewardess took it away and I guess put it in the coat check area.
Yeah, and then the knife and the bullwhip went into like her bag.
The bag, yeah.
Checked.
What did you think of Laurie Singer in this movie?
She was difficult to work with, from what I read. She didn't want to. The day they were supposed to put the prosthetics on her for the 40-year-old, which in retrospect I don't think you needed. I think they were aging someone's idea. 40-year-old doesn't need prosthetics, but
I think was far away from 40 by the time the movie came out.
She was like the late 20s.
I don't know. I think that role could have went to anybody. I think she was probably the only part that I found. Okay, it's Laurie Singer from Footloose. Like that's all. Ariel. That's how. So I'm like, yeah, it's cool that she's in this, but it's like, what else is she really? She's done some things, but it's like I don't know.
She more or less retired from acting, or
she made a lot of. She became a director. She did some documentaries, which actually won some awards, and she got a lot of accolades. But yeah,
she was probably the most underwritten. I think. I think her character just does mostly reacting to things. Right? I'm getting out of here, and hey, we got to go, and hey, so she kind of is. She's supposed to represent us,
right?
And also
she's the type that carries her insulin everywhere.
Yeah. Which was an interesting touch.
Yeah,
it was, but then you find out, but it's really cool though. That's actual a plot device for the end, right? Because she injects him with the salt water, so that was clever. Again, the writing, So.
Since this was probably made in like written originally in the mid '80s, she was probably a junkie at first, and they were like, "No, we're gonna
make
her diabetic now."
Gotta lighten that up a little.
Exactly.
Oddly enough,
it's too heavy for this.
Speaking of, this is a stretch. Speaking of junkies or junkie roles, Anna Thompson is in this. She's the wife of the priest at the end, and she was in The Crow, and she was in Unforgiven. She was the Fun Boy's girlfriend.
Yeah,
in The Crow, and she was in the Unforgiven. She was the prostitute that got cut up.
Right, the face. Yeah.
She was the wife at the end when Julian Sands is
Right.
like, oh, there's two, and you want them to be slugs of heaping flesh. I'm like, oh, like
one of my favorite parts of this movie too is where Julian Sands like bursts through the door and then just carefully puts the cross back on the wall. It's all good.
Yeah, they go through the whole thing of the pins coming out of the door and everything, just kind of, almost very Evil Dead-ish, where it's just like so much focus on it, and then and it's like, okay, cross belongs here.
Sorry about that. Talking to the kid earlier really was creepy.
That was disturbing. Yeah.
Oh, with the video game,
that kid.
Yeah.
And he just starts laughing. It's like, I've heard there was more to that scene and they cut it because it was so like dark. Where it goes next.
It's weird because Julian Sands is like sitting, like standing on the swing, and the kid is just talking about but that is very emblematic of how things were in the late 80s with with the video, like they were just like they didn't care who they were talking to, and then I
was one of those kids. Yeah.
And then he finds out that the kid is not baptized.
My new friend.
He gets the flying potion, which was kind of disgusting.
I found it kind of odd though, like what's the time factor there, because it's like it just goes from that scene to like the mother grieving, but how much time has actually passed? They went out and killed the coyote. Yeah. Was this a day? Was it a couple of days? Was it just an hour? It takes a while
to render all the fat from that kid.
I guess so. But it just seemed kind of odd. So I felt like there's definitely more there, some more footage there that was we didn't see. But
should have called Tyler Durden for help with rendering that. You could have got you straight. You could have got you squared away pretty quick, right quick. But all those little flourishes, and that was an extended scene of him talking to the kid, and the kid's like, "Oh, it's your turn," and you punted and did this, and just developing that thing instead of just a straight, usually straight horror films is like, let's get to the killings, right, and kind of.
I enjoyed the joke about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers too.
It
used to be called the Yucks back in the day. But,
nobody punts on first down unless you're Tampa Bay,
right?
Okay,
before they go, and the kid's like pretending to be in a game or whatever, and they pass to him, and he catches it again. And he catches it again. I'm like, okay, who knows less about football, this kid or Julian Sands? This is
it's just. And that kid ended up on Baywatch, and then he retired from. He got shot twice. He was coming home from work. He was on some sitcom, and he got like shot twice in like each arm or something like that. And then he retired after that. So,
wow,
that's more information than we needed. But I just really think that. This should have gotten more. I keep saying it, but only because I want people to really check this out. It's available on, if you have Amazon Prime, you could stream it. If you don't have Prime, you can get it on YouTube. I mean, there is a Blu-ray box set.
Tubi.
Yeah. Tubi also?
You can watch all 3 Warlock movies on Tubi, which I did.
Yeah. I'll go to Tubi. I'll go to
all 3.
I'll go to Tubi for the second one. But this is like one of those little ones that seem to have gotten away from people. Now, Tim, the 3 of us have seen it. So what did you think about it as someone who hadn't seen something like this before? Because it was very foreign to you, right? You didn't even know. Like,
I had no prior connection to it whatsoever. So it was very, very new to me. I felt like there was definitely moments where I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's neat." Like, or all right, that's kind of gnarly to look at. And then there's other times where you're like, "Ugh, oh man, this is like," and I think it's just they put their money in certain places, and I think it showed at times where the money and attention to some areas were a little lacking. So it's definitely a very uneven movie for sure. But I still think it was pretty worthwhile watch. Like, it was still really interesting to see those moments, and like there's like, if anything has potential for a remake, like remakes can be good. There's some solid remakes. Sometimes remakes are better than the original. Like I think this has potential, like as a property that someone should take a look and maybe play with this a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could even be like a short series on Max or something, where they expand the time,
especially because, as you were saying, the lore builds, there's so much lore built clearly right from the beginning. So there's a lot to mine here.
Yeah.
There's interesting things to look into, like witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. And it seems legit, you know, you see it in other films and other TV series and things like that. So I felt like that was probably the best part is they obviously did their homework a little bit in conceiving some of this stuff. And I love the whole bit about, having the name of God, appear on the book that will undo creation. That was that was more or less a Raiders of the Lost Ark moment for me, but it was, but it was definitely an interesting, plot point. I thought
there's like a whole storyline that they only hint at where they clearly knew each other for a long time. His wife died and he knew his wife, and you only get like a little bit of that. Like, would have been interesting just to know, well, what the heck happened there? Is that relationship a lot longer than that?
Yeah, I have it. I think I kind of know, because I don't know if you guys watched it. If you watch YouTube, there's a like a 40-minute documentary where you can like listen to the interviews from everybody in this movie. And Julian Sands gives an answer that like first he says like my character is malevolent like 10,000 times, which is a lot of fun. And then he mentions like, yeah, I think that I decapitated his wife and cut her up, and that's what happened. And now he's kind of unhappy about it.
I mean, they could have literally spent maybe 5 to 7 minutes of script and screen time in the in the olden days,
17th century,
and showing that, like, they could have easily.
I could have had a whole movie just in the 17th century. Going at it.
Yeah, but that was
what we get is we get like, okay, they've caught this witch, and then the witch hunter comes, which is enough, because we get a lot later on. But if they had shown him like killing people, then killing his wife, and that would have set the character up even further. But we get it in exposition when they're in the car.
Well, he seems, he does seem particularly obsessed with, I've tracked you my last, and all of this, sort of gravitas that he's throwing out there at you. Like, that this is his, his foe, like his formidable enemy. You don't know how exactly, has he been doing this long? Has he been tracking other witches? Is this his occupation?
Yeah, who tracked him?
Yeah,
right? Was he already a witch hunter before his wife died? Like,
right.
Or
the fact that that he was such a son of Satan, I guess. Just so evil that it was just his ultimate foe. And I don't know if you really need it. I don't really. I mean, you definitely need a little bit more, perhaps, of him, explaining and maybe grieving a little bit more. But I don't think you really need.
It was definitely more interesting than what was going on with our female lead. So that's why I would have liked it. I mean, maybe if you even did it like almost like those Fear Street movies on Netflix, where like each one was kind of set in different decades or whatever, would be an interesting way to go about it too.
Yeah.
Kind of chasing across time.
Yeah.
This feels like it was a big thing at this time period. Like movies like Time After Time, this movie, Beastmaster 2.
Yeah, okay.
Decided to do this exact same plot. Like, hey, let's just bring them into the present. Like,
I heard a lot. I heard it got panned. A lot of people didn't like it because they said it was too much like the Terminator. Too, if you look at it that way too, if there are plot points of this movie that are very similar to what's going on, not necessarily the same type of thing, but the end of the world is coming, and then there's the female, protagonist in the film, and
a weather event brings them to the past or whatever,
right? And she's somewhat clueless, but then she gains that strength towards the end. She becomes Sarah Connor, and so I could see the similarities. I could see where people would think that.
Just a little tired of this exact kind of story.
There's a lot of DNA from other films that show up, but again, I think it was done in the right way. It wasn't done schlocky, even though, like Tim said, I think they kind of knew that they had to pay for certain things with the budget, and they probably said, okay, we'll have to figure out some of the rest of it, I thought the animation was pretty cool. Like when Julian Sands,
I'm a sucker for that stuff.
And then when he put his mouth into Redfern at the end, and Redfern was like throwing up like whatever it was, like it's being animated, but he's like throwing up whatever he was being put inside of him. I mean, they use that same kind of animation in Highlander at the end.
Highlander, Terminator, when they're coming from the future, it's all hand-drawn animation. And that's something.
I think they said initially the effect
freaks me out with that.
What's that?
Ghost.
Yeah,
Ghost.
The shadow guy.
Stuff that always freaked me out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Well, more mainly because of the noise. It was like,
I think initially the effect was supposed to be like ectoplasm or something like that. It was going to be more sort of like the, but even like with Ghostbusters too, like the whole like the streams and everything. It was animated. And it looks fake, but it looks cool. You know, there's something about that.
There's something more tactile to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's you know that somebody worked on that, even though they didn't have the budget to do something better. It's still effective, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that's my complaint with this movie. I think it is to me, maybe I'm just biased because I just love horror so much. When this movie leans into its horror elements is when it's at its best. Personally, and so it is weird when it just takes a break from it. I do appreciate the little jump scare that they try to have where she's like trying to get her little bracelet back. Right on the train, they try to do a little jump scare there, which just sounds like
I love all the. It's almost got maybe some James Bond DNA in there too, because he's got the gadgets and just the little different things that they. It literally seems like a melting pot. Now that we're talking about it, it seems like they just threw David Toohey threw like almost every type of genre in here, but arranged it in a way that makes sense too. Because that could be if the script wasn't as good as it was, you'd have a disaster, because then you'd have kind of a budget that couldn't really reach the heights it wanted to, and then schlocky writing or really ham-fisted writing. So I think the balance, I think the writing and the performances kind of save and kind of make you be like, okay, that's goofy. That flying doesn't really work too well, but I can forgive it because I'm having so much fun watching it as well. Fun in a good way, not fun in like, wow, you have to see this. Like,
I'm never bummed out watching Julian Sands. Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Like the guy could be in like is it a room with a view? Like there's
Boxing Helena,
and all of a sudden in this, what was that?
Boxing Helena, he was in.
Boxing Helena. Well, that's a really weird movie. But yeah, hell yeah. The guy could just do anything. He was up for anything, and he always gave it his all. And this,
he brings immediate gravitas to it. So
everything he does, he never went down to the material. He always raised it up.
Yeah, and that's what's important.
And he did a bunch of TV shows, like where he just show up for an episode here or there, or a miniseries, and just like always made it better from it being in it. God, I miss him.
There are scenes in this movie. I was watching it today when I wasn't looking at it. I got up to get a glass of water or whatever in the kitchen, and I'm listening to him talk, and I heard Loki. He sounds exactly like Hiddleston, like
Julian Sands.
Yeah, there were certain things, the inflection of his voice or whatever. I just heard Loki. I'm like, damn, he sounds,
this is the Marvel method. Like, we got some silly dialogue. Let's bring in some classically trained British actors to make it sound believable.
It's like, to tie that all together, Richard E. Grant played a version of Loki in the Loki TV series.
Right, yeah.
Right.
He played the classic version of Loki, the comic book accurate version of Loki. Oddly enough, in the very beginning, when they got the very beginning, when they're in Boston or Salem, wherever they're supposed to be, when
Plymouth.
The Plymouth, where the three guys are walking,
I don't know.
The three guys are walking through town. I think maybe Tombstone might have stolen that from them. There's the one guy, Ian Abercrombie is in.
Mr. Pitt.
But he's also he's in Army of Darkness also.
Sure. Yeah, he's a wise man. Yeah.
Chin.
He'll always be Mr. Pitt to me.
He was also the Emperor in the Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars, yeah.
He did the voice of Sidious.
Was something going on with cats in the beginning of that movie too?
We're gonna burn you with.
We're gonna hang you, and then we're gonna burn you above a basket of live cats.
That was so weird. that was a moment that was like, wait a minute, what?
That's the stuff I love though, when they bring in those kind of weird details, like this is really somebody read something in the book, like just like the hammer into the footprints. I'm like, What?
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. Like I kind of like that too.
And they probably were like, we don't have the budget, so we can just say it.
Yeah.
Like, we never
Say it, but it's effective though.
Because harming a cat or
trying to pick his feet up, and he's got like a wood board on it to like not get the pain or whatever, which is an interesting way to evade. Okay,
explain why, but you just kind of go with it. It's like, I guess putting the board on, or having his feet on something solid or whatever.
Right.
Like,
I wonder if any of that was improvised or like, made up on the day. Like, oh, what if we did this? Because we can't do something even. So I think it's that kind of stuff is effective. You look for creative ways to make it work.
And even in the very beginning, when they have him in the thumb and toe trap, and I'm like, oh, that's definitely a real thing that really did to people. That
when he had it on like halfway, and he's like walking, and then he looks up, and he's like all the way up the hill already. Like he made it that like that was pretty quick,
Well, I always thought about that. I'm like, why didn't he stop to do it? He probably wanted. I thought he probably needed to get away as far as he could before he could try and take him off. Like, because that was a great scene. That was very Infinity War when they're all on top of him and they're trying to like it was almost like trying to take the glove off of Thanos. Like they're all on top of him, like get his shoes off, and they're trying to put the thumb screws on him, and he's and then he finally gets the gaze of the Mennonite guy and the black like again, just a lot of really great like scenes that kind of carry you, and I think it helps you forgive some of the things that are lacking, because the things that are lacking aren't so offensive to like the budget and to what they're doing. It's just kind of like, oh, a little hokey and but I think the high points more than make up for it.
It doesn't bring it down.
He's like, well, I got to help and save this Mennonite man, or he's gonna die. So you got it, girl. Don't worry. Go get this really scary warlock. I'm gonna save this guy. You go finish up. Like what?
It's like get a hammer and nails. She goes, how about a shotgun?
You're a very trusting witch hunter. Okay.
But then that whole thing, I need brass keys. Like they have all this stuff like figured out.
The pennies thing was weird, right?
Yeah. Like for errant magic, it'll protect you from any errant. I guess something maybe that goes astray. If you throw something.
It must be something where I missed the dialogue. He knows what is the pennies made out of to know it worked. I don't know, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
Like I totally like whenever I watch it, I just totally buy into it because he just sells it like from the beginning. I think from the beginning with the compass, like that kind of sets the tone for he's got gadgets and he's got all this knowledge and I need that. Was there any blood and he's scraping it off and like he kind of is
it's like a CSI,
like a detective too, right?
He's like scraping,
he knows what he needs to do, and he has like all the knowledge, which would have made for an interesting backstory. Like you said, like how did he? Was this because his wife was killed and he became obsessive about it? Was it like I said, if this was like a 10-episode series, you could have gotten a whole section of it in Plymouth with him terrorizing people, his capture, his the death of the wife, and
it's kind of the movie I want to watch now. It's
You guys should pitch it. Go ahead, but come up write a treatment and
17th century Warlock prequel. Let's go.
Yeah, season 1 could be like just the whole prequel thing, and it would be very compelling. But and I think it's all the gadgetry and all that kind of stuff that keeps you hooked in, and it keeps it from becoming just run of the mill. And like I said, there's the nods to Indiana Jones with the
Well, Dean, you mentioned Universal Monsters too.
Whip. What's that?
You mentioned Universal Monsters. I wonder if Redford. Yeah,
Redford.
Thank you. Was an inspiration for Hugh Jackman's take on Van Helsing. Because he had all the gadgets too, right? He had the big hat. He's like badass. He's got the crossbow. He's got, just the look of that always reminded me of that character.
I think that's supposed to be Solomon Kane that they're ripping off of, which is another witch hunter character. I never saw the movie. It's supposed to be pretty good, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the big hat, and like I don't know if he has the gadgetry like you're saying, but I think what's the original Van Helsing, and the Dracula has odds, like, he had medical gadgetry, but I could see the same kind of vibes that you're talking about.
Peter Vincent, right? And in Fright Night, he's got he's got all the props, right?
From, the gag props,
but the props work, but yeah, I mean, I just think that's one thing I think there's definitely one thing lends itself to another. If you're a film buff, somebody's got to be looking at that kind of stuff and just, we got to, I like the design of that or whatever. But yeah, I just,
it's obvious that they did this with Warlock, that they pulled from things and said, let's take some of that. And let me pull from here. David Toohey absolutely kind of cobbled together a lot of his probably favorite influences, but like I said, it just works, and for me it's fun to watch, and that's what I like about it. Is the performances are engaging. Richard E. Grant is really good. I mean, he must have been sweating like 50 pounds of fur in California.
LA shoots were rough. Yeah.
Well, there is that scene where she like lays her head on his shoulder, right? And she gets a good sniff out of it. And it must stink,
when they're on the plane.
Yeah. So she's like, woo! Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a movie that kind of gets it takes off and it doesn't stop. I think that's one of the good things about this film too, is you don't get really any lulls. So that also kind of helps, it's well paced. So I think that kind of keeps you involved and not thinking too much about, something that is a little goofy. Like it kind of goes by you pretty quick and you're already moving on to something else. I think that helps too of this movie. He really has a breakneck pace that really kind of,
I think the biggest problem for me with this movie is that Julian Sands is so good in it, and then when you're not with Julian Sands, you feel a little cold. Like, when are we getting Julian Sands back? That's the stuff I love.
Yeah, I want to see like Demons more or something.
This movie comes alive when he is on screen. Yeah. He's that good and that charming.
Yeah,
I think it's like, well, he's got to kill another kid. He's running.
Just one more scene. Well,
he had that little bag of fat. I was wondering if that was the same kid or he killed another kid. Like,
have a little bit more fun on the farm before they show up or something.
I was wondering this when he's in the belly of the plane, and he's like heating up whatever's in his little bag. Was that he's just drinking more like kid fat, or is he like
more fat so he can continue to fly?
Because it came out white, so I'm like, is that like just how he likes his cream, and that's why the cream always curdles?
I think it was. He couldn't heat it up all the way, so it was kind of like gloppy. Like, it was not nasty, appealing looking. But I'm like,
no.
He needed to like reload, so this way when he got landed,
but
that he could just kind of.
But like you say, Tim, those little horror elements are really effective. The guy like bleeding constantly. He's bleeding out of his eyes, and it doesn't stop. He's got to he's got to do like spin those like whatever that it was like that
keys
the keys around for like days, and like eventually it's going to stop
thing over their cradle or something.
Right, exactly. But it's just weird, but effective. Yeah. So
Well, as we start to wind down, what we like to do is I mean, we've talked about a lot of our favorite scenes, but we kind of like to talk about some scenes that really are keyed in. I'm going to make a prediction that if when it's Patrick's turn, it'll probably involve Julian Sands.
Safe bet.
I'm safe bet unless he's going to say I really love the credits. But
no, can't say that.
So let's start with Eric. Eric, what's a couple of the favorites?
I really like. I mean, Julian Sands is great, but I really like Richard E. Grant in this too. I love the way he gives that little bit of comedy, fish out of water type comedy. Mm-hmm. But when he's in the moment and when he's like serious about what he's doing, damn, I think he gives a fine performance there too. I just think he's just a really badass type of character. I just loved him, and I wanted to see that in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I was really glad that he got cast in that movie because I was expecting that kind of character again, and he was just like the drug, the doctor, Dr. Stewart, like he was totally not what I expected. So I was like, man, that's kind of a bummer.
Nobody was what we expected in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I don't think we got any performance that we expected out of anybody.
So I liked some of the lines where he's like calling him brute. And Beast and that kind of stuff. And I've tracked you my last. I love that kind of shit. You know, that's my shit right there. Yeah.
It's
So
great writing. Tim, what about you? You're fresh off it. What?
My favorite part is the death scene of Julian Sands. I just think that the whole special effects and the way he goes down is awesome. I also really love how he the death. I'm sorry, going into the horror because this is my favorite parts. The when he kills the homeowner, the really nice guy that owns all this antique furniture.
A man who is gay but not queer. Yeah,
it takes in strangers because clearly he took her off the streets too. He just it's a lovely man. But it's a really mean death, really mean way to go. The way he goes, which I was like, nice. I like how they just there's
finger off first too, right? First he takes the.
What's up with that ring? What did he need the ring for?
I just wanted it, huh? I just liked it, I guess. But again, it just goes into like, man, this is like an awesome, just evil, badass villain, you know?
Yeah.
And then and I also enjoy too when he shows back up to the house, when she's trying to pack up to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I felt like it was a nice menacing horror moment, and those were definitely my favorite moments. Yeah.
Cool. Patrick.
Oh, it's my favorite is when he goes to like the fortune teller or whatever, the channeler, channel me a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the slow play with it, or he's like, he knows that she's absolutely bullshit. He knows what's going to happen to her. He's like, yeah. Wait a second. It's Hannibal Lecter like in his like, playing with her.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite scene with him. I also really enjoy where he finally figures out the name of God. And as a British actor, he can't help but ham it up. And
he turns into a Bond villain in that moment.
Yeah, he's got a monologue. That's the ultimate death for every British actor. He's like, oh, I got a monologue before I can actually enact an evil plan.
You actually
I know thee.
Go big or go home.
Say the name, man. You got it. You're on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, we got to give time for the heroes to kind of get themselves back together. That's why. So it's the talking villain. My favorite scene is the barn scene, but it's everything that happens before it, because that shows how well this was written. Is the father is walking, the Mennonite father is walking around, and the milk is curdled and the horse is sweating. Like it builds into the lore that this shit is real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the son's like, oh, Dad, this isn't. He goes, son, when the horse that sweats and this, that, like, he goes, and you know it, like, you know what this is. Like, It's like, oh, this isn't just like some weird fantasy thing. It's like there's people that believe this or
right.
We're aware of it. And that's when he gets the bucket out and the ladder and he paints the pentagram, like for me, that just really just help, like it helps ground the film, like that there was people that understood what was going on. It wasn't just, oh, here's the dopey people in the house that are going to get waylaid because they don't know anything. It's like, this guy actually knew.
Yeah, it's timeless.
And it's kind of ironic, and then all of a sudden, like, the guy shows like he did everything he was supposed to, and he got like instant service because Redfern like showed up.
Yeah.
Like 2 minutes later, oh wait, there's a pentagram on that house. Pull over. But I just really like that because it added to the authenticity and it added to the lore that people were aware of these signs and what they believe and how it tied into their religion and how the father still believed it and he knew what it was. And it's like, we got to take this shit seriously. Like curdled the milk is one thing, but then the horse and all the other stuff that's going on, it's like, well, this shit's getting real now.
It's it's also really a great juxtaposition with that scene. And then when they're on the plane, when Redfern sees the cream that went bad and the blue flame, and these are all modern, like just regular people, like modern stuff, but which probably wouldn't mean anything, but he knows that it means something. And that's, that was an interesting.
And he started
turning into like Man on a Plane kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started like freaking out. He's like, "Oh, this, he's here.
Something on the wing."
Yeah. I was expecting Julian Sands to be flying out the window. Like, you guys, like Nightmare at 50,000 feet
on the wing,
Twilight Zone. Yeah, like you see him like flying, like I was expecting to see that. I forgot.
Me too.
I forgot that might have happened, and I'm thinking I'm waiting for it to happen, and it didn't. And I'm like, oh. Okay, so where the hell is he? You know, like...
Yeah, I forgot that he's stowed away also. Yeah. So I thought, is he like hanging on to the fin, or is he in the back, like underneath?
Chilling with the baggage, curdling his milk.
It's real simple. He's in with the cargo. He's in with the cats and dogs. You know,
yeah.
So guys, what would you? Okay, so you score films, right? So what would your rating be for this film?
That's interesting. I did take notes, but I didn't go into our scoring categories. I mean, usually it's hero gets a score out of 5, right? Then villain gets a score out of 5. Okay. Then there's just an general kind of action type category, scares, whatever, and then we kind of usually do side characters is like the final thing, and then that's how we kind of calculate it.
Okay,
let's do it.
So I mean,
hero. Okay, I'll walk you through hero. What do you think?
Hero.
1 out of 5.
Okay.
2.5.
I was going to say 3. Okay. Yeah, it's not like he's bad, but at all. I just think there's like a lack of development with the character, and the pelts is interesting, but not the most flattering look. And I would say that it's weird when they go how hard he chooses to go with the Old English. And there's sometimes where he's going really heavy with it, and other times he kind of starts to relax it, and I'm like, all right, what's going on? And so that's kind of where I would dock it a little bit.
Yeah, when he broke the table, she goes, yeah, he broke it. Patrick, hero, 1 out of 5. You said 2.5.
2.5, yeah. He's right down the middle. I could have, I don't know, fish out of water. I'm like, all right, we're doing this again, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I think to your point, I think, or to Tim's point, is we got a character that had all this knowledge, but we don't know how he got the knowledge.
Yeah,
right.
And
he kind of knows all this stuff, but we didn't really get to find out the background of how
it dies off screen. So we have an idea of a motivation, but again, we're kind of understanding this kind of out of.
He doesn't want to reveal any of his background to her, so it's like, all right, well,
because there's like a weird tidbit that apparently she looks a lot like his wife, and apparently even the same breasts, which is a crazy Julia Son line too. I was like, wow. Okay.
He just goes ham on these people. He brings out all the ammunition to get them to get unhinged. Okay, so villain, 1 out of 5. Patrick, 5. 4?
No, I'm gonna go. Yeah,
I thought you were gonna be a total homer.
I needed more Julian Sands.
Okay,
so like not giving me enough, I gotta duck you down a point.
But you're penalizing
he's a lot of fun.
You're penalizing him.
I'm penalizing the movie.
His fault.
I'm penalizing the movie for not giving me enough.
I agree. It's not his fault, right? It's I would agree on the 4. I would give it a 4. I think there's some things holding it back to this villain going another level, and it's probably again that we are such horror fans that like we just love when you go and just lean into that horror, and it just doesn't really quite go there enough, especially in that midsection of the movie.
Yeah, it was kind of for horror fans. This is kind of shit or get off the pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like like you said, like if it's going to be horror, give me horror. If it's going to be kind of fun, rollicking adventure, well, then give me that. And they kind of have a foot in both. But I'm that guy. Right. I'm the guy that like you just give me enough to scare me, but then have a good time. What other categories do you do?
Action, just general kind of horror scares. At least when we do horror seasons.
So for scares, this is going to be like what, a 2 for you guys?
I was going to go middle again, 2.5. Because there's the beginning stuff I really like, and the ending in the graveyard is fun.
Yeah.
But there's not enough of it. So
it definitely gives some nice gnarly moments. It's just kind of lacking. We don't exactly go, but when we say scares, right? It's not like we literally got jump scared or anything like that. Because like we're so desensitized at this point in our lives. Like there's very few things that ever like actually scare us. If anything, we might go, "Oh, that was kind of creepy." Was that creepy, Patrick? Yeah, that was kind of creepy, Tim. Like I mean, that's kind of what we're like at this point. We grew up with like. I mean, I was like a little kid being sat in front of the TV to watch Freddy Krueger movies with my sister on a sleepover. That's kind of what we were kind of ingrained in. So but it's just kind of the general feels, creep out factors. Like like we might not have jumped scared, but I like that moment. I kind of dig it, like that kind of a thing.
Like,
so I'd agree.
Yeah, like kind of like, oh, that was cool. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, that was cool. Okay, cool. All right, well there you have it. If you want,
supporting character would have been the last one.
So again, supporting character. So is Laurie Singer a supporting character, or is she's technically the female lead?
She is definitely, but I would have given her a supporting character. Because this movie just feels like it's definitely about Redfern and the Warlock.
Lay into us. What's her score?
I would have also given her just a mid score of 2.5 because she does do a decent job with the comedy, but there's just not a lot of character there.
Yeah,
like we don't know anything about her other than that she was just renting a room from this guy. We know she went to 2 years of high school, and that is as much of her backstory as we know. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you do get like the priest and his wife, the Mennonites. Like you do get a few other side characters. No one's actually particularly bad, but I don't know how much it elevates the movie either. I'd probably go more 2.
Okay.
So I would give it like 11.5. Tim would have given it like a what? Oh yeah, about the same score actually.
Very much of her time. You know, when I was thinking about it, like she's very prototypical 80s, but I think she was specifically written that way because by the end of the 80s, people really weren't like that. So I think she was written to be that way, like on purpose.
The way she's dressed feels like it's 5 years too late.
Yeah.
Like from 89 when this was originally
exactly. That's why I felt like it was intentional, like that they weren't just trying to put the jargon, and I think they kind of wrote her that way. Of here's like a tip, you know, she has like that kind of 80s lackadaisical attitude, and you know,
she's dressed like Frankenhooker.
Yeah.
At one point.
So listen, everybody out there, if you want more of that, if you want scores and you want to hear great breakdowns of the films, you know, check out Tim and Patrick, the Film Bros Championship Podcast. It's on all the major platforms. Like I said, we're going to put a link to Spotify. We're going to put a link to YouTube in there as well. Guys, thanks a bunch for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. You're welcome back whenever you want.
Thank you.
I'll try and pick a film less obscure.
No, more obscure, the more fun for me. Who's talking about Warlock? Like, you know, there's a million podcasts about like The Exorcist, a movie I love, but I'm like,
we did it already.
We've heard lots of people talk about The Exorcist. No one's talking about Warlock, and that's why I was delighted. Like, Warlock, absolutely.
Yeah, I got excited.
And Tim was like, I have no idea what this is.
I had no base.
This is our space. No one else is doing Warlock podcasts. We got it. We cornered the market. I think it's so cool.
There you go.
We got to go back. We got to do Warlock the Armageddon, and we absolutely can never do Warlock 3 together. Let's never do that.
No,
that'll be my pain by myself. Let's just, you know.
Bruce Payne took over the whole.
It's a real piece of shit. Ashley Lawrence from the first 2 Hellraisers is there too, playing a college student, even though she's in her 30s. It's real.
Yeah, and Laurie Singer was pushing 30 in this, and she's playing a 20-year-old. So I went to look up her IMDb. I'm like, she was like 28 when she made this, or close to it, or whatever. So
that's like, yeah, she's already closer to 40.
It used to be kind of the norm though back then. It's kind of insane how old people were playing certain roles. You're like, what?
Yeah, in Greece, everybody was almost 30.
Yeah,
That's like the biggest stretch. But Tim and Patrick Callahan, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
It was a lot of fun and a lot of fun to geek out with you guys, and I'm glad that Patrick was jazzed about it, and I'm also glad that Tim got to see a film that he hasn't and kind of put that and maybe revisit it down the road somewhere and be like, kind of fun. It's a fun watch.
Yeah.
That's one of the core Julian Sand movies that every Julian Sand fan needs to see.
Like, we have a movie that we're doing later in our season, and it is Top Dog, and that was rough for me. This was not rough. I enjoyed doing this one. Did not enjoy Top Dog.
Top Dog was with Chuck Norris, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, with the
it is a garbage movie.
Wow.
They made a Chuck Norris movie where he teams up with a dog, and they made it PG-13. Just hats off.
Oh, it's so bad.
And
you guys are dedicated. I got to tell you, you know, I might have tried to find some type of loophole, or hey, do you guys have mulligans on your show? Like, you know, I'm going to take a mulligan on this one.
Not even the worst movie we've seen in our entire.
That is very true. Sadly enough.
Yeah.
Do tell.
But we get really good things too. So you know what I mean? So like, yeah, we got Top Dog this season, which was rough, but later on we're gonna do Die Hard with a Vengeance and Goldeneye, which are like amazing, great action movies. So
that'll make it up.
We got some pick-me-ups.
The only way to find out what was the worst film is to follow them and check out their podcast. When do you guys drop your episodes?
Mondays.
Every Monday.
Every Monday. And this month alone, we're also doing bonus audio only spooky episodes. My brother and I have a tradition that we were doing even way before podcasting, where every Friday for the whole month of October, we get together. He has a horror movie pick. I usually have a much lesser, worse horror movie pick. And we watch 2 horror movies every Friday the whole month. And so now we've done this as like a bonus episodes, like kind of mini bonus episodes that we have been releasing on either Wednesday or Friday this week. That are just like, okay, these are the horror movies we watched, and these were our general thoughts, and we try not to give anything away.
Cool. Awesome. Eric, any final closing thoughts?
No, it's just been a real pleasure, guys.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Love having, like I said, like new faces. We enjoy having people that geek out as much as we do, and so hope we have to have you on again.
Yeah, love to. And you guys definitely have the passion, and it comes through. And I think that's always what makes for enjoyable listening for podcasts is people that are like you said. Patrick said it. Everybody has an Exorcist episode, but I think it's what everybody kind of brings their own spin to it that really makes it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Oh, absolutely. I didn't mean to insult. I mean, I love
I totally get. No.
I just mean like that's so cool. There's a Warlock episode. Absolutely, I am listening to that. I get to be part of it. Even better.
See that, Eric? We just earned our cred with them, like in one shot, one guest spot with them, and I totally knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely.
It's only going to go. If you guys come back on, it's only going to go downhill. I mean, I don't think I have anything else.
Just keep bringing me the weird shit, and I am there.
How about Street Trash? Eric, what about Street Trash? Remember that?
Oh my goodness, yes. I do.
That's a horror film.
I don't think.
I think someone bought the rights to it. They're going to try and re-release it. It was a horrible.
It was like The Stuff.
It's on Tubi.
The Stuff.
Yeah.
On The Stuff.
It was very much. It was very much. It was like a really bad take on The Stuff.
And we saw that
toxic beer. Oh baby.
Yeah, we.
But it was no. This was like I don't even know where the hell did it even come from? Was it from outer space or some weird? It was about people. It was technically supposed to be a movie about people living on the streets.
Yeah, like homeless people.
And you think that's what the movie's about, but they find this stuff, this green glowing stuff.
Or it's in a bottle or something. Isn't it like
it's in a bottle, they drink it, and then people just melt. They just like every time, and it's disgusting. It has no point to it whatsoever. It has
no budget.
Also, no budget. It's horrible.
I'm gonna love it.
There you go. Yeah. I gave you
yeah. So I guess it's in my future.
Yeah. Well, we might have to come back on for that one. That's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're joining us from the Film Bros Championship podcast, we appreciate you checking us out. If you're joining us from 3324, go check out the Film Bros podcast. Championship podcast. We're going to put links in the show notes so you can absolutely see what they're up to. Give them a follow. This way you get notified when the episodes drop. You don't have to worry. You don't have to get confused. When is ours? When is theirs? Your podcast provider, your app will just let you know. So, Tim Callahan, Patrick Callahan, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Dean, Eric, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's been a great ride. So for Patrick, for Tim, for Eric, this has been Dean asking you to please be kind. Go ahead and rewind.